When I survived the accident that put me in a coma, broke my neck, and crushed my frontal lobe, that wasn't the end. That was just the beginning. I didn't walk out of the hospital a saint. I walked out a shell. How does a kid deal with that? Then later came rebellion, addiction, a lot of pain, both for myself and the pain I caused to the people that loved me and cared about me most. So why am I sitting here today talking about uncommon gratitude? Because I learned God doesn't just love the miracle version of us. He loves the broken version too. He didn't waste my pain, even my rebellion. And He won't waste yours either. Let's talk about finding peace in the middle of the mess and how the mess becomes your message. pcSHOWme. Hey, Trailblazers! I'm so glad that you could join me. Today we're going to be focusing on finding peace in the trials. And not just the big trials, but all trials. A little while ago I wrote a song called Uncommon Gratitude. And the basis of that song was realizing, after taking a step back, that some of the time that I was most grateful for in my life were some of the hardest, most difficult times that I've ever went through. God used those times and those difficulties to strengthen me and prepare me for what He had for me. And so there's no way that I could have become the person that I am now unless I would have went through those difficult times. Remember, God is working even when we can't see it yet. A lot of times it just becomes clear to us after the fact. I wanted to talk about my ski accident with you. I feel that most clearly demonstrates this principle at work in my life. I was 16 years old. I went skiing with the ski team. I was in a severe accident. I was in a coma, a broken neck. I was paralyzed on the right side of my body. I had severe frontal lobe damage. I had 13 blood clots in my brain, and I was in the hospital for almost 3 months. I was given less than a 7% chance of living, and even then, the doctors had told my parents that I would never be more than a mental vegetable and never walk again. Needless to say, it was a huge miracle that I'm here right now, that I got out of the hospital. But the tough times didn't stop when I got out of the hospital. They were just beginning. Recovering from a head injury to that extent, there was a lot that I had to go through, and unfortunately that I took others through along the way, through my rebellion and addiction, some of the other problems that I had while I was trying to cope with this. But I'm still grateful for it because God used all of that in my life to make me who I am today. He used that to build empathy and resilience and other traits that I needed to be who I am today, so that I could pay those forward to other people and help other people to walk through their difficulties and to realize that He's with them in that as well. I didn't understand any of it back then, but looking back, I can see God's hand on me the whole way through, and He never left my side. I wanted you to know that if God can bring me through all that and through all the things that I faced in 40 years since then, He can bring you through what you're facing right now too. I guess the core of what I'm saying is that peace isn't the absence of trials. Peace is having God with you while you walk through those trials. Growth rarely happens in comfort. It usually occurs during struggle. That's when God shapes us and molds us into who we're meant to be. And often when we can find our calling, and step into it. God uses delays, closed doors, setbacks, trials, struggles, breakdowns to develop and bring about changes in us that could never be brought about during periods of comfort. One thing I know for sure that I experienced firsthand is God is always writing more into our stories than we ever know. If we're lucky, we can look back and we can see that. And we can be grateful for those difficult times, even though they weren't easy. I would like to take a little bit of time and just go through some of the lyrics in my song, Uncommon Gratitude. I think that it could really help to demonstrate some of these concepts. So in the first couple of verses, I really echoed the fear and the vulnerability and the brokenness that I think that we all have to struggle with from time to time. I tried to pray like a soldier, but I stumbled in like a child, holding promises I've broken and questions I've carried for miles. I wanted to be stronger before I could come to you, but you met me in the silence, whispering, I've been waiting too. And pre-chorus, and maybe the mercy I needed was hiding inside what I feared. We're not always ready to face those fears head on. Then we got the chorus, I give you uncommon gratitude for the blessings I begged for, and the ones that you never let through, for the heartbreaks that healed me, and the storms that shaped my view. I'll praise you in the waiting room, where hope learns to bloom. All these are examples of uncommon gratitude, or not something that would come to mind when you ask most people what they're grateful for. The ones he never let through, the prayers we thought he didn't answer, but he actually answered by not giving us what we wanted because he knew it would destroy us. The heartbreaks that healed us, things that might have hurt that we went through, but they made us into something more than we were. The storms that shaped our view, you helped to tailor our perceptions to help us overcome other obstacles in life. Praise you in the waiting room, where hope learns to bloom. We don't always get everything when we want it, but waiting for things often helps us to be ready for it when we get it. The other verses, it's been a slow winding journey, a valley that taught me to see hope in the rain and joy in the shadows, a strength that you kept growing in me. The nights I thought you were distant were the nights you carried my heart, for you were the calm in the chaos, holding the pieces apart. All of that speaks of us coming to the realization as we're going through that, and after we've been through enough of those difficult times where we realize that God not only brought us through, but improved us, made us better, shaped us into something that we didn't have yet. Pre-chorus, I used to think that grace meant answers, but sometimes it's just learning what's true. Sometimes there's just no real answers, right? But if we see things for how they really are, and we realize that, it can change our perception. And then the bridge. Thank you for the doors that you closed, that kept me safe when I couldn't see. Thank you for the roads unchosen, the ones that weren't meant for me. Thank you for the battles lost, that saved me more than I'll ever know. Thank you for the nights I broke, when grace rebuilt the truth. Sometimes the greatest gifts you give are the ones that I never choose. None of us would ever choose to go through some of the difficulties that we've been through. I know that beforehand I would never choose to go through anything like the ski accident that I was in. But at this point in my life, I can see how God has used it to refine me and to shape me into what he wanted me to become, and to help me to have the desires that he wanted me to have in order to be the person that he wanted me to be. That was the basis of the song Uncommon Gratitude. was I realized that, yes, if I had to go through everything again, I would choose to do it just the way God had me do it the first time, because I'm so happy with who I am now, and I wouldn't change it for the world. I trust Him, and I'm so thankful for everything that He's done for me through all this time that I've had, this beautiful life I've had, and the challenges and the blessings I got to go through during that time. And I'll come just as I am with uncommon gratitude. You might be in a battle right now. You might be going through very difficult times. I know personally that a lot of times we have to go through a breakdown before we can come to a breakthrough. But you're not alone. God is closer than you think. Something is being shaped, strengthened, or healed. These times aren't being wasted. And when you pray and when you get with God, ask Him, what do you want me to learn here? If you can, take a step back and just thank Him for being with you and to see what He's trying to bring about in you. Above all, I'd really like you to remember and to know that peace and growth are possible, even in the hard seasons. God is with us, and you don't have to walk through them alone. With that, I invite you to listen to Uncommon Gratitude again with new ears and new eyes. And just ask God what He has to show you through that. Thank you so much for talking with me. Trailblazers, have a great evening. pcSHOWme.